and welcome to We Got Options with the Doctor and Son. Thanks for joining us again on this Friday morning. It is 8:30 a.m. and we are ready to talk about a pretty big topic that I find to be interesting, wanting to talk about youth and the life skills and the life development part of what we want our youth to understand as they're growing and getting older. But a lot of times we don't have that planning piece in our home setting, in our family setting. And that's something I wanted to kind of talk about today. I wanted to talk more about youth workshops and working with youth regarding life planning. Now, I know there's a lot of people saying, why would you be talking about that? But, hear me out on it. I feel like sometimes we teach our kids a lot of different things, or we are waiting for the schools to teach our kids a lot of different things. But I don't think a lot of times the school is the place where our kids should be learning a good amount of things. I.e., for me, I believe that the school is not teaching our kids about the real world aspects of money, the real world aspects of finances, the real world aspects of your health, the real world aspects of taking care of yourself, looking at your body as a temple, the real life aspects of just living in general. I think that there are a lot of things that we do look to the school to bring up, but I think that we should be looking within our own families and within our own homes, in our family structures for some of these things when we're talking about our youth. So Tremaine, you're here today with me. Wanted to just talk a little bit about, just giving a little mouthful of what I just said. What are your thoughts in that area about workshops and really helping our youth, help guiding our youth, I would say, with a little bit more intention? What do you think?
Um, it's a great idea because, going to school is one thing, but you don't get any experience outside of those things, and the school doesn't really push for that either. And
Mm-hmm.
in public schools, at least as far as when I went, it was years ago by now. So, but I don't think the school was really as helpful as it could have been
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
in terms of giving us experiences and what 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 we needed. But I do I do think that I do think that there is room in the community for that to be more helpful, but I think it would have to be a bit more of a collaboration. I think.
I agree with you when you say collaboration because, I think it would probably have to look at, yes, some community activities and some, I guess, some community leaders, but some community leaders getting out there and probably some parental involvement as well. I know of some places where they do you can bring your child to work or bring your child to see your career. Your child can come, you can go to school to do career day at your child's school. But I think sometimes, and this is what I'm seeing, is that, and I hate to say this because I said this before, but I'm going to say it again. I am noticing when I am working around individuals that are, let's just say doctors, a lot of the doctors and the nurses that I work around, a lot of those individuals are already, helping their kids to figure out some stuff and kind of giving them a little bit more guidance, a little bit more support, a little bit more intentional guidance, and making sure that, they're thinking about things that will be and they're experiencing things that will be an asset to them as they're moving through high school, middle school, elementary school. They're doing things. There are programs out there. I've met a few parents that have sent their kids to programs over at I think it's UNC Charlotte, but it was a science and math program where some of these individuals that was in this program were interested in becoming doctors and engineers. I myself, I learned about it. I didn't know about it. Not that either of my kids wanted to be a doctor or engineer, but I found that to be really interesting that there are programs out there. And I think there's not how can I say it? There's some interest, I guess, but I think, as parents, we've got to look out there and see what's out there, and we can create some of these experiences for our kids, ourselves, not only with just workshops and structured activities, but experiences that they can be involved in. Tremaine, what are your thoughts there?
You're absolutely right, in my opinion. I mean, there's a lot that needs to be done in that perspective. In
Hmm.
turn, I know we all know what the real like thing that's stopping most families from doing so would be monetary.
Monetary, I got you. The main thing that we are kind of talking about also, because we've realized how vast it's become when it comes down to making money, in this population and this economy right now, is so much that's going on that, the simplest financial things that we learn about or we know about. And I'll be honest with you, as a Black family, sometimes we don't think that we can even be eligible for certain things. You know what I'm saying? So like you said, yeah, monetary is what drives it home. And also, when you say monetary, also we think about it, finances is the thing that a lot of us, not just Black families, but a lot of families are behind the eight ball on. And that's one of the biggest things that they will not teach in school. And that's really one of the big things that I think that a lot of our, the younger generation really need a snippet of that. So, with saying that, I'm going to go to a commercial break and we'll be right back. Insightful Options, PLLC, providing counseling, consultation, and DWI services in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. Contact us at www.insightful-options.com, 704-492-1105. And we're back with We Got Options with the Doctor and Son. And I'm Dr. Latasha McElwain. And of course, Tremaine Green is here. We're talking about youth and really thinking about youth workshops and thinking about youth having more of a life plan, or, as they're growing, just having these lessons and these different workshops and different things that are available to them in the community. While we were on our break, Tremaine, I took a look at considering other things that the school don't give our students, our kids, our youth, is things like they're getting into it, but they're not there yet because they're going with some of that social emotional learning stuff, which is really that curriculum is really taking hold of schools right now. But when we start thinking about children being well, being socially aware, and being, having that level of wellness in life, I'm thinking about mindfulness. That's something that, a lot of schools are trying to jump on now. They're bringing yoga in and yoga therapists in to help with the kids, yoga teachers. They're doing mindful movement. Mindful movement is, pretty much like yoga as well, but it's a lot of movement for, younger people to be able to keep their creativity going, to be outside in nature, to really be able to, I call it, tap into their curiosities and tap into their creativity. Basically, mental wellness, mental health, life balance. And then another thing that I think is real important is work-life balance. When we think about students in school, as far as me seeing individuals, come in to the emergency room and saying things like, my child is real stressed out right now, end of grade testing's coming. And then looking at just the different things that they can do as far as being a little bit more, I guess, chilled out in their sporting activities, their extracurricular activities at school. We know that, yeah, everyone wants to be, a great football player, great basketball player, but sometimes that is not always competitive. Just sometimes you're having a good time, just kind of chilling with it for a little bit. So I was thinking about those things, and I just wanted to know what were your thoughts in some of those areas, Tremaine, when we're talking about our youth population.
Um, in terms of like how we necessarily give the perception of sports and things like that.
All of it, the whole, sometimes, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm gonna look back on my high school career, my middle school career, and my elementary school career. I can remember how competitive it was. No one was telling me to, oh, make sure you don't overdo it, make sure you don't, work
I
yourself to
mean,
death or anything. But that was
I
happening,
mean,
you know?
I mean, not to say that. Yeah, like yes, there should be a perspective in which people shouldn't be pushed that hard. Yes, I do agree with that. But that's
Hmm.
by design. I think that's by design because we're always when you're in school, you're always working toward the next thing.
Yes,
It's
yes.
that idea of, oh yeah, when you're in elementary school, you're working your way from middle school to high school, from high school to college.
Hmm.
You're continuously building up
Yes.
uh
Hmm.
for the eventuality that you're going off to college and you're gonna have whatever you're gonna do in college.
Yeah, but I think with a lot of that, those high expectations start to kick in, and that level of stress kick in with a lot of our young people. And I think that's something that, me being a parent and me being a person that's out here in the mental health wellness world, really trying to focus on not just, adults' mental health, but focusing on everyone's mental health, of course. A lot of times our young people are under a lot of stress that we don't even think about. There's a lot of peer pressure, there's a lot of friends, there's a lot of activities, there's the school work on top of that. I mean, it's a lot. And I think that we have to think about different types of workshops and different type of outlets for our children, um, other than school. And I think we ought to give them more of the real life experiences in these different type of workshops or even trainings, or what have you, as far as what real life looks like, because school doesn't paint a picture for us.
Oh, of course it doesn't. It'll never paint the picture for you. It'll never be the full picture, at least.
Hmm.
um I mean, the thing is that we would have to build a place in which we'd have, I think people need the options laid out before them a little bit more so, because college, for some people, college, that's not the answer. That shouldn't be your end all be all goal in school.
That's correct.
And we don't think about how that bottlenecks a lot of children in
Yes.
general in school, because some people are not cut out for college.
Yeah. I got a little story for that one. I feel you.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I mean, around the end of the school year, April, May, June, what I experience a lot of it of working in the emergency room is that we get a whole bunch of seniors. And these seniors got, I guess, what they call senioritis, but they got senioritis for all different kinds of reasons. They got senioritis because they don't, want to go to the prom. They don't want to conform to what everybody think they should be doing their senior year. You shouldn't miss your senior prom. And their families kind of forcing them into that, and they don't want to. They end up in the emergency room. And we're not going to talk about the reasons why they're really in the emergency room, but that's kind of the real reason. But there's always something that happened that the parents felt like, oh, they're dealing with mental health, so they send them to the hospital. I've dealt with adolescents that have come through, young adults, seniors again, coming through, and they're there because their parents' expectations. They don't want to be the lawyers and the doctors and the school counselors that their family members are. They're wanting to maybe start a new business, or they have this great innovative idea about something and they're afraid to break that. So with that, they are actually dealing with the fact that they have that stress on that level of stress on them. And what happens is a lot of, and in these areas, I get it why the parents send them to the hospital in some terms, because I do understand that when they start noticing that there's some physical differences, some emotional differences, they're noticing that their teen is just stressed out and can't seem to stay on task and things like that. So they're thinking something's wrong, or their teen is just really, really sad. So with that being said, they send them to the hospital because they want to make sure, are they depressed? Is it anxiety? What's happening? What's going on? And of course, they don't ever come in with those two low level ones. They come in with, is he or she bipolar? And I'm like, no. But
I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
it's a common thing
Mhm.
when a s- when you're a senior in high school and you're like, well, I mean, a lot of seniors in high school these days have peaked the notice, kind of.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
So I would say, in terms of college, they're not looking at, you know, oh, this is gonna be like the thing for my career path and stuff like that. They're thinking about they're thinking about their money. They're thinking about, well, how, like, I mean, student loan debt is not going anywhere.
Right. Got you.
All of that's not going anywhere.
Yes.
And do they really want to go into that system? Do they really want to go into debt, go to school just to get into debt and then have to work?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a lot. And then a lot of them also,
And work and also in college is the idea of working to get your career and then not getting into that career.
yes.
That's
I
a
get
lot of people nowadays.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. I think it's just a lot. So, having, you know, some awareness in the community more about young people, kind of life planning. I know it sounds daunting to some people, but I don't think it's a bad idea.
It would definitely give people some perspective, and I think as early as students junior year, they should be at least getting somewhat of a taste of what some jobs are like, so that they're not just picking up picking out of a hand jar and going like, "Hey, this is it." Because I mean, college is a place where you don't want to take extra time if you don't have to.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm right there with you because I remember that.
If you're
Yeah.
gonna go, be sure in be sure in what you're going to do there. Do not just go to go.
Yeah, and that's really, when you get to college, a lot of times that's when a lot of people start figuring out what real stress. I mean, they have stress, don't get me wrong, and it starts early, but that's when they realize what real stress is, and that's what they realize where the real, physical and emotional stuff come in, as well as the ability to balance out their lives. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because that's the first time they're gonna experience that. Of course, it's going to be, and it's a big change from when like you were with your parents.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah, definitely thinking about having, those skills come along earlier in your years is just what I'm trying to, kind of put out there because I think youth being in a being in a role where they can be young and free, that's beautiful. But I also think that we should still have, a level of, some people it ends up being a culture shock for them, and
I
that's no
mean, it's a
wrong
culture
part
shock.
either.
I think that's more common than we're saying.
Yes, I believe that too.
Could you say back when you were in school, there wasn't like you had reason and purpose to go do what you needed to do, but
Hmm.
think about everybody else who didn't necessarily have that reason.
Right. Yeah.
They're going,
Yeah.
they're going because it's expected.
Yes. It's what's expected of them. And I hate to say it, but I have a lot of friends that are still kind of wandering around a little aimlessly,
I
Not to,
mean, one because I mean you're far too. I mean, at the age that we tell kids to get it in together, it's like you're still kind of just a kid.
yeah. Yeah.
Where
But I
like
think,
where would you have gotten the kind of experience to be able to make a more informed decision?
that's why, when I talk about having workshops and having more, youth
I'm not.
based.
Yeah, you say that just to get the information out there, right?
Yeah, and yeah, but that's just to make sure that we are equipping our kids with some good stuff that they're not going to get out there and bomb. You know what I mean? Because I know plenty of college students that went to school with me, of course, that they went but they didn't make it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
And,
mean
mhm.
it's a lot of expectations, and I mean there might I like there needs to be talks of other types of opportunities and things that you
Mhm.
can do.
Yeah, and I mean, after this, you would be amazed at how many students that I have talked to. When I was definitely seeing a lot of the teen population that had no idea, no clue of what was next.
I mean, I remember back when I was in high school, that hit me like, I mean, that's what I was dreading, getting out of high school.
Hmm. But and I guess in your years, that's what you were dreading. And me, I was trying to get out of there as quickly as possible so I could go to the
I
next
mean,
step. You know what I mean?
well,
With
well,
different reasons,
mine,
of course.
you had completely different reasons. You were in a completely different situation, and it
Absolutely.
was also expected of you that you had to do something. You had a
Exactly.
child.
Exactly. I did. I did.
Like no nobody that there was more expectation put on you versus someone like me who didn't have a child. There will
Right.
be there'll be less expectation of, oh, you gotta go to college. Why you gotta go to college for?
But here's the
I mean,
deal.
but the idea is what would we do if you did? That's
Right.
and that's but that's the question that we don't give to children. We don't
But
tell them, hey,
but here I'm gonna flip it on you again. But the kind of expectations or the stress that a lot of kids coming under now is just as heavy as it was for me. And I had a child. I had something to do. You know what I mean? And I'm seeing a lot of
mm,
kids come in and they got more stress than that on them. And that's why I said
yeah.
I just think that, it's like, and I think about it and I'm like, well, good grief, I had a kid and it wasn't that much stress on me. But I say that
I
to
mean,
say our
I
kids need
mean,
that extra
I think
support.
pers- I'm I'm not trying to put you down or anything in terms
Stop.
of I don't want to get hit on that in here,
Oh, don't do
but
it. No.
I I'll just say we were very fortunate that you had your that my great grandmother was there to keep watch over me, and you didn't have to worry about me overwhelmingly as a mother during that time. You were able to go do your classes and not have to worry about what I'm gonna make for this kid, what I got to do with this kid.
Right. You are right. I was able to leave the state and go somewhere else and actually really focus on the fact that I was in school, but with the idea that I have to do well because I want this kid to eventually come home and live with mom, possibly in the state or another state. But you're right. You're absolutely correct. And that's a lot, having a whole nother
Yeah, I'm
person
about to say,
to think
yeah,
about.
I don't want to put you down or anything like that.
Of
That's
course
not,
not. Oh, of
yeah.
course.
I
No,
mean, and a lot of, and I'm like, for everyone that has that option, there are people who don't have that option at all. They have a kid, they get disowned,
that's correct. But
or
what
they, or they,
yes,
or they do something that the parents don't approve of. They get disowned.
yes, but I'm
What do you,
saying
what do you tell a kid? What do you tell a kid? Where are their options? Where did they go?
right.
What do you
But
tell them?
right, but what I'm trying to say is a lot of the kids nowadays don't even have that they're not dealing with an issue like that. You
Oh,
know
I
what
know.
I
I
mean?
know it's more interpersonal.
Yeah, now it's just even more in there because, and I think that's because of social media, but I'm not going to blame it on social media. I'm going to say that we as parents, we as adults, we as the older generation, we have to reach out to our younger generation. We have to be the example. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean there are limitations to that because a lot of parents would come to you know the conclusion of, well, I did this, why don't you?
And that's old
That,
school
that
thinking.
I mean, but there are a lot of people like that.
Exactly. And that's old school thinking, but that's not how our new generation thinks. Our new generation, yes, they're laid are trying to be a
I
little bit
don't really think
more.
that. I don't think anybody's lazy.
No, I didn't say lazy. I said laid back.
Oh, laid back. Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. You cut out for a second.
Now, I said laid back. So the newer generation, I think they're a bit more laid back. And I do believe that a lot of times, it does take a little extra, I call it gentle parenting from us, the older generation, to connect with the younger generation And for us as the older generation, I would have to say it, to really kind of open our minds to be more open to change and to differences. So I think our younger generation would understand, and also realizing that what I consider adult life is not what my little cousins that's 11 and 12 years old, that's not going to be their adult life. You know what I mean? Because their
Yeah, and I
adult life
mean,
is going to be totally different. They're going to be totally digital. I mean, I grew up with the adult life that, oh, I got to write checks. No, they're not going to be writing checks. That's not how they're going to
I mean,
move.
nobody write. Not many people write checks. It's only by choice you want to write checks now.
I'm using that as an example though.
Yeah,
I'm
I understand
saying
what you're saying.
as the
I understand.
old,
Yeah, I get it.
yeah, as the older generation, we got to be able to connect with our younger generation. And and with that, we'll go to a commercial break and we'll be back in a few minutes. We got
Mhm.
options with the doctor and son, a family conversation discussing mental health and wellness topics weekly with a variety of special guest appearances. Join us every Friday morning at 8:30 a.m. on www.wdrbmedia.com.
Mhm.
And we're back with We Got Options with the doctor and son. So, Tremaine, we're back. And a few things I just want to just add a little bit of light to as we're talking. When we're talking about life planning for our young folks, I'm thinking in terms of making sure that, our kids are having a good grasp on, who they are, who they want to be, who they can be, what they can do, definitely looking at what they feel are their personal values, family values, community values, really making sure that they understand the level of communication with themselves and communication with others. When they're looking at their relationships, when they're also looking at gender differences, when they're looking at, what community means to them, what family means to them, what they mean to themselves, all that self love and self care. And then looking at having some goals and what goals are, and how to look at making some good decisions or understanding what those not so good decisions are. And then also think about, as they get older, whether they want to be a parent, not be a parent, because that's another big topic that comes up in our younger generation now. Also understanding, what violence is and what is considered, especially when it comes to domestic and different types of violence, understanding what is considered violence. That's a big thing that I do like to teach my young people. So like let them know that, oh, someone spoke to you like that. Okay, well, let me cue you in. That's abuse. No one should speak to you that way. So sometimes people just don't know. And I think our young people, if I come across adults that don't know, I know there are young people that don't know. And taking care of their health, being in those areas, and just preparing to be being out in the real world and being out in the world, working and living a life and what that looks like. So, with all that being said, I know that was a mouthful, Tremaine. What are your thoughts when you hear all that?
Um, I mean, in terms of everything, yes, we need everyone needs to come together because in terms of everything that to encompass everything you were talking about, it's really discovering oneself, and because that is what you're doing by the end of high school into your college, you're discovering who you are as a person.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to really get to know that person because through school it's a good way to develop, learning how to make friends and learning how to interact in society somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
But in college, that's when you're gonna face the well, I don't have anybody to tell me what to do.
Well,
And
not
am I
even
gonna make some of the right decisions?
yeah, not even in college when you decide to move out of your parents' house at whatever age you move out at.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it doesn't
I'm
always
sorry
be
to be so
college route.
I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I was being kind of think about it. Uh but yeah, like as you grow up, you're discovering more about yourself entirely.
Yes. And you know why I mentioned this though, Tremaine? I mentioned this because I think the world is moving faster than a lot of us know. Like my age range, especially I'm gonna say my mother's age range and older, they don't really understand how fast the world is moving. Even though we're moving at the same rate, technology, I think, has put us light years ahead of the game. I don't know what your thoughts are there, Tremaine, but I just feel like
Um,
it's not that our kids are growing too fast, but it's just that, what
I
we're
mean,
dealing with right now.
everybody would say.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, everybody would say that about the next generation on down. I mean, we'd say that about. I mean, everybody. I mean, it's overall. It'll always get better and better, I guess, as we go on, and kids will get more and more experiences as time goes on. And I do understand what you're saying about technology, but I kind of want you to go into that a little bit more, just to make
Well,
sure I'm not going off base.
no, I think so I'm gonna go with I'm always observing my family members. So my little 2-year old cousin, he's able to get my cell phone. He's able to get in it. He realizes what to press to get in it, and he's able to go to his YouTube channel and go to his favorite Kokomon, I think it is a Kukumon, whatever you call it. Anyway, he's able to go there and yeah, he's watching YouTube. So I'm like, okay, this kid is only 2, and he could do that since he was like 1.5. Okay. So with that being said, I'm just saying that our kids are exposed to so much more, and it's not going to be in a scenario where it's, oh, don't let them have all the screen time. Screen time is going to be all that they have at some point. You know what I mean? Like screen time will be it. You know what I mean? That'll be what they do all day, every day, almost. You know what I mean? Online school, on
True.
TV. You get what I'm saying? So I'm just saying how,
True.
yeah, you get what I'm saying? How technology
Oh,
is.
absolutely.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Now that I heard you out a little bit more, I mean, I do understand that, but eventually you're gonna. I mean, eventually you're gonna have to go outside. You're gonna have to deal with people.
And that's where my fear comes in, is that we got to go outside, we got to deal with people, but we still are not teaching some of the basic things about being an adult, or some things that you know our some of our counterparts, they may be learning it, or they might know it from what they're taught in their homes, but a lot of families are not jumping on this, and
Well,
a lot of families are
well,
giving it
what?
the excuse that oh, well, we don't have the money to do that. But I tell them all the time now, I tell a lot of my families, YouTube will teach your child anything. I
I
tell them,
mean,
okay,
I have a question then. In terms
yes.
of what do you could you name off some of the things you think we're missing, or that younger people are missing?
Well, I think, yes, technology will be there, but the social aspect of things, not that they're missing it, but it could be a part of, kind of like, all right, we know we go to work, we know we go to church, we know we go to school, we know we go, what I'm saying? We do these things, but as things start to close in more, where we're doing a lot more of this technology stuff, we can't lose that socializing. And maybe that's because I'm a big old socializing person. I'm a person who loves to be sociable, Tremaine, you know that. So, and I'm sure the audience, they're realizing that this lady likes to be sociable. But I'm one of those persons that like to reach out. I like to connect people. I like to collaborate. I like, come to my house, let's have some tea. Let's meet for coffee. Let's do this, let's do that. And I tell people sometimes, let's meet for drinks. I don't drink. I don't drink tea. I mean, I do drink tea, but I don't drink coffee. So I'm meeting somebody for coffee. I don't even drink coffee. I'm meeting somebody for drinks, and I don't even drink. I'm at the bar with with Sprite, lemonade or Sprite or something. But I do that because it's still a way of getting someone to come out and socialize. So again, I can do tea with anybody anytime, but I'm just saying, it's just still having that connection with people. And I think when it comes to not just that, but then other things as well. Finances is something we don't really get into with our kids, and they wake up and they realize that it's a culture shock. Like, what? That costs what? You know what I mean? Or I have
Well,
to
the
pay
thing,
for that. So it's just a lot
I
of,
mean,
oh, people act this way. And oh, wait a minute, it's just a lot of things. Or oh, relationships could end up this bad. Or oh, I didn't know that was dangerous. It's just, I guess getting some of those unspoken stuff, you know what I'm saying? The
well,
unspoken things of life as you're growing up and really putting our kids on, I ain't gonna say on just on putting them up on point, putting them up on game and what to expect as they get older. That's it.
um, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Nothing to it. I'm just gonna kind of. I mean, you and I. I mean, we were kids once, and for everybody that will tell you something, I personally think telling kids stuff like that it helps, but sometimes kids just do. Sometimes kids need to you need to experience for yourself
And
somewhat.
and you know what?
I
I
do.
like that
I
idea too.
and
It's
I would say maybe I mean, we can't always, safeguard our kids and like give them information about everything. You can have all the information in the world, but there's always going to be something that we miss.
they're always going to me, I would say with this, they're gonna always be lived experiences, but sometimes having that lived experience is great and I think it's always best, but I also think that sometimes knowing about some things and having an idea about certain things, other things, or whatever the case may be, will help you with that lived experience.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So that it's not totally foreign to you, like
Oh
you
no, 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 no.
right. You don't want to walk in somewhere at age 21 or 18 or whatever, and you've never seen, a caterpillar before. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, if you know about caterpillars, have read about caterpillars, when you see a caterpillar, you're like, oh, that's a caterpillar. Oh, I'm afraid of it. Let me move away. Oh, you know what I mean? Instead of,
Hmm.
just really totally shocked by it. And I'm just using that as an example, just to break it down a little bit,
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, there's nothing wrong with any of that. There will be like the thing is to possibly, and I know what you're trying to say. You're trying to basically say you want a better framework for someone to pull reference from.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And I
and
think
that,
that
and I mean in that way you're gonna have to. I mean, as a parent, I guess if you are a parent or anything like that, is to you're gonna have to let your kids possibly go out and see
yes.
because you can give them you can give them a lot of information to the cows come home,
Yeah,
but them having the chance to experience it for themselves and having the freedom to experience it for themselves is something else entirely. Not to
exactly.
say that you give them full range and they can go about everything, but giving them a giving them a taste of like, hey, this is what a job is like. This is what you would be like if you were making this much money. Like how like if we asked you to buy X amount of things, could you? What would you have to do at that point?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's not really like making you try to think overwhelmingly big, but putting it's more of you want to put it into perspective for a kid.
And you know what I think sometimes a good idea of putting it into perspective with the kids, sometimes taking them to the grocery store. And instead of them just tagging along behind you, they help you grocery shop. They go
Oh
to the
yeah,
store
sure.
and they see how much, is in
I
the
mean,
bank account and how much gas they have to put in the car. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
I mean everybody learns and develops that on their own. I mean kids used to get allowance when I was a kid.
Hmm.
Not that not that I was the type to spend money and get the idea of what was being taught with the oh I'll give you an allowance
Hmm.
and you save up that money for like something you really want.
Right. I get
And
it.
I mean I get that now as an adult. Like if you gave your kid an allowance, you're gonna be like, okay, either you're either teaching them the idea of saving for what they want, or you're teaching them, okay, if you wanted to, I get say you give them the allowance, and you're like, okay, like a few dollars. Okay, how much is your cereal? If they
Mhm.
know, how much, if they know how much their cereal is, if they could tell you that, or
Yes.
if they see it and they're like, oh, the cereal's this much, and you have them already thinking in terms of, okay, I have this much money. Okay, cereal costs that much. Well, I have just enough for it, and I'll
Mhm.
get a little bit of change back. I mean,
Mhm.
all of it coincides with school things because you learn a lot of that in school. You learn addition, subtraction in school.
Absolutely, yeah. But I think a lot of the real world experiences, I think those are sometimes what is missing from when people are transitioning from, from adolescent to, young adult to adulthood.
Mm,
But just exposure. I think that's the biggest thing I'm trying to talk about is just life exposures, you know?
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you'll get it one way or the other.
Yeah. And
But
I would
I
hope
think a
healthy.
foundation is better than having nothing at all.
Exactly. Yes. And I would think healthy exposure is always something. So that's one of the things that, like I said, I look at and I wanted to have this conversation about, youth and, having
Maybe
workshops or having things to guide them, support them more. And you know what? Don't get me wrong, though. I know a lot of churches that have youth groups that do a lot of these things that I'm speaking of.
I mean, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just finding that place. I mean, now that sounds good on paper, but a church is not necessarily always the best place for everyone.
Exactly, exactly. And that's why I say, I think community based. I think it being community based and it being family based is one of my things too. Is,
Mm,
families just coming up with their own plan of allowing their children to be exposed to different things. You know what I mean? So, yeah,
yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it's a lot. Maybe next episode we'll just talk about some of the do's and don'ts that you would think.
yeah, we can definitely do that. Well, thanks so much for listening to us. Tremaine, I think you gave me some good conversation today.
I hope I did.
You did. I just wanted to thank you for that. But for everyone else, please come back and hear us again next week, Friday morning at 8:30 a.m. with We Got Options with the Doctor and Son, Dr. Latasha McElwain's professional consulting services. Dr. Latasha McElwain has become an elite and esteemed professional in her field of counseling psychology. She provides consultation in counseling and business practices, as well as providing supervision, consultation to professionals in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. Please reach out to drlatashamacelwain.com 704 492 1105.